All right, let's jump right in. We usually think of time travel as something out of a movie, right? But what if I told you there's a real place on Earth where you can actually step out of our world and walk right into a prehistoric one? A forest that has, for all practical purposes, just stopped time.
And that's not just some poetic idea. It's the literal truth about one of the most incredible ecosystems on our planet. It's a direct link to an Earth that existed long, long before any humans were around to see it.
So, yeah, how is that even possible? That's the huge mystery we're going to unravel right now. And the answer? Well, it involves a massive ice age, a kind of geographical shield, and an absolutely epic story of survival against all odds.
Okay, so first things first, we need to get a handle on what and where this place is, because it's a genuine anomaly. It's a place that really shouldn't exist, a sort of paradox that justifies the entire landscape around it.
It's called the Hyrcanian Forest, and it lies like a sleeping emerald dragon right along the coast of the Caspian Sea. Now, this is a part of the world we associate with dry, arid landscapes, which makes this lush, ancient forest a total paradox. It's why scientists don't just call it a forest. They call it a living museum of an era that ended millions of years ago. It holds clues to our planet's past that you just can't find anywhere else.
So that brings us back to the main question. How did this one forest make it when all the others like it just vanished? Well, its secret is this incredible story of survival, which makes this forest the last one of its kind, the sole heir to a world that was basically wiped off the map.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It's mind-boggling. For millions of years, forests just like this one covered huge parts of the globe. And then the last ice age hit. We're talking glaciers a mile thick, crushing almost everything in their path in the northern hemisphere. But somehow, not here. This one little pocket of green survived it all. There's actually a scientific word for this. It's called a refugium, because it was tucked between the warm Caspian Sea on one side and the towering Alborz Mountains on the other. This area became a sanctuary. The source material has this beautiful way of putting it, that it was a Noah's Ark for flora, saving all these plant species that went extinct everywhere else.
So what does it actually mean to have a forest full of survivors? It means you can literally walk among species that are basically ghosts, living fossils from a lost world.
Let's take the perfect example, the Ironwood tree. This isn't just some ancient tree. It's a species that truly belongs to a completely different geological era. And this is what's so wild. Before the Ice Age, ironwood trees were all over Europe. But today, the only thing you can find in places like Germany or France are their fossils. But here, in the Hyrcanian Forest, you can find entire, thriving forests of them, turning this incredible fiery red and purple every autumn. It's a spectacle that the rest of the world completely lost.
And it's not just the ironwood. You've got the Zelkova tree, the date plum. These are other relics from that same forgotten world. So the really crucial thing to get here is that it's not just about one unique tree. It's an entire ecosystem of survivors. For a botanist, walking into this forest must feel like a paleontologist stumbling into a valley of living dinosaurs. It's that big of a deal.
And because this place has had millions of years to just do its thing without any major interruptions, the complexity is, wow, it's just staggering. This isn't some neat, orderly park. It's a chaotic, beautiful tangle of life. You have giant trees, this incredibly dense undergrowth, and vines everywhere, creating this multi-layered world where you can see the cycle of life and death playing out on every single surface.
So what's the secret sauce? What's the ingredient that keeps this ancient world ticking? Well, it all comes down to its very unique and very persistent climate.
So the Hyrcanian is officially classified as a temperate rainforest. Now stop and think about that for a second. Temperate rainforest, Middle East. Those are words you almost never hear in the same sentence. The fact that this ecosystem even exists right here is what makes it so incredibly special.
The real key is this constant mist. The locals call it meh. It rolls in off the Caspian Sea, gets trapped by the mountains, and just blankets the forest in this permanent state of moisture. It's dripping from every leaf, it soaks the ground, it is the lifeblood of this impossible green world.
And all that moisture, it creates this really unique atmosphere. The sound is totally different in here. It's this heavy, absorbing silence. The noise of the modern world just disappears, muffled by the wet earth and millions of leaves. It kind of forces you to listen to the much older sounds of just wind and water.
So this all brings us to the forest's legacy, and it's a story that isn't just written in the pages of human history, but in deep, deep biological time.
What's so fascinating is that this forest has always been a place of mystery. The ancient Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, they all knew about it. And to them, it was this dark, impenetrable place filled with wild beasts. It was, quite literally, the edge of their known world.
But its real story, its real history, goes back so much further. This ecosystem, its very lineage, has roots stretching back up to 50 million years. Just try to compare that to all of recorded human history, and you really start to feel the scale of the deep time we're talking about here.
And it is still a truly wild place. This is home to the Persian leopard, the largest leopard subspecies on the entire planet, not to mention brown bears, lynx, and jungle cats. This isn't some manicured park. It is a functioning primeval wilderness where, believe me, you are definitely not at the top of the food chain.
This quote from the source just perfectly captures that humbling feeling of being inside the Hyrcanian. There's this undeniable sense that you are just a visitor, a temporary guest, in a place with a history and an intelligence that is so much older and deeper than your own.
And that really leaves us with one last thing to think about. This forest is a living monument to resilience. It has witnessed the entire arc of human civilization. Empires have risen and fallen, while it just kept growing. So when you stand in the presence of that kind of deep time, what does it make you think about our own tiny place in the grand, sprawling timeline of life on this planet?
We're talking about a lush, ancient world that's been hiding in plain sight. This is the story of the Hyrcanian Forests, a secret world that's been around since way before the last ice age. But right away, this incredible forest presents a puzzle. I mean, think about it. Look at a map of Iran and Azerbaijan. You're probably picturing some pretty arid landscapes, right? Not dense, humid rainforests. So how on earth is this even possible? All right, let's start to unravel this mystery. The answer, it turns out, lies in a really specific and pretty unique geographical setup. It's kind of like the perfect storm of mountains and sea coming together. Okay, so picture this. The forest is basically squeezed into this 850-kilometer arc. To the north, you've got the massive Caspian Sea, the largest inland body of water on the entire planet, and to the south, you have this towering wall of the Alborz Mountains. This geographical sandwich is the key to absolutely everything. Because what this unique geography does is create what is, for all intents and purposes, a perfect, self-sustaining climate engine. It's this amazing weather machine, and we're about to pop the hood and see how it works. So how does this machine actually run? Well, it's a 5-step process. First, the sun beats down on the Caspian and evaporates tons of water. Next, winds push all that wet, heavy air south until it just slams right into the Alborz Mountains. Now, those mountains act like a giant wall, forcing the air straight up. As it rises, it gets cold, and cold air can't hold as much moisture. So what happens? It has to let it all go. The result is a constant downpour of rain, snow, and thick fog, all drenching just one side of the mountains. And listen, we are not talking about a little bit of drizzle here. The wettest parts of this forest get over 2,000 millimeters of rain every year. To give you some perspective, that's on par with parts of the Amazon rainforest. It's just a staggering amount of water, and it's what fuels this entire ancient world. Now here's where it gets really cool. This isn't just one big uniform forest. As you actually climb up the mountains, it changes, like, dramatically. You're basically moving through completely different worlds. Let's take a look at how this forest is built in layers. Think of it like a layer cake, right? And this layering is exactly why the biodiversity is just so incredibly rich. If you start down at sea level, in the lowland zone, you've got all this moisture and rich soils, so trees like alder just thrive. Then you start to climb into the foothills. The drainage gets better, which is perfect for the super dense ironwood and these massive oaks. Go higher still into the montane zone. It gets cooler, there's almost constant cloud cover, and that creates the perfect home for these majestic oriental beech trees, which just completely take over. And finally, you hit the subalpine timberline, where only these gnarled, twisted trees can hang on against the harsh winds. So, this incredible stack of different habitats has fueled an explosion of life over millions of years. But you know where this is going. These ancient inhabitants are now facing some very modern and very serious threats. I mean, the sheer amount of life here is just astounding. The forest is basically a living museum. It's home to over 3,200 species of vascular plants. And get this, many of them are ancient relics that completely vanished from the rest of Europe during the Ice Ages. They survived here. And the variety is just beautiful. You've got those oriental beech trees that are like the kings of the high slopes. And then lower down, you have the Caspian locust tree, which looks like something out of a medieval fantasy with these brutal-looking thorns. In the spring, the whole forest floor just erupts in wildflowers. And in the deep ravines, you're surrounded by these waist-high ferns. It feels like you've stepped back in time.
Of course, all of this amazing plant life creates a home for an equally impressive range of animals. The forest is this crucial highway for migratory birds. Over 180 species breed here. It's also one of the last safe havens for the incredibly elusive Persian leopard and for the brown bear. But, tragically, it was also the final home of the Caspian tiger, which is now extinct. A really somber reminder of what we've already lost for good. For thousands of years, humans and this forest had a sort of balance. You can see it on the left. People used timber sustainably, herded livestock seasonally. They lived with the forest. But that relationship is completely fractured now. Those traditional ways are totally overshadowed by the modern pressures you see on the right. Illegal logging, farms expanding, roads and dams cutting right through this fragile ecosystem. And this really brings us to the Anthropocene, the age of humans. Because beyond all that direct destruction, the biggest overarching threat is climate change. It threatens to mess with that delicate Caspian engine we talked about. And if that engine breaks down, these ancient trees could be stressed beyond their ability to survive.
So the forest is really at a crossroads. It has survived millions of years of natural change. But the challenges of just the last century, well, they're its greatest test yet. So, is there any hope? Yes, actually, yes there is. A huge turning point came in July 2019 when the forests were named a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This was a massive deal, a global acknowledgement that this place is unique and absolutely irreplaceable. And that UNESCO designation really brought a glimmer of hope. It sparked international attention and funding. It's helping shift the focus from just exploiting the forest to actually managing the whole ecosystem. There are new efforts to empower local communities. Reforestation projects are starting to heal the scars, and scientists are even studying the tree's genetics, hoping to unlock the secrets of how they've been so resilient for so long. One researcher put it perfectly. He said, "This forest is a gift from deep time. It is a living library of the Earth's biological history. And every single piece of it that we lose, it's like a page being ripped out of that library. Just gone forever." So we're left with this really powerful question. This incredible ecosystem, this living library, survived the crushing cold of the ice ages. The great challenge of our time, for all of us, is to make sure it can also survive us.